Okay, let's start with a question. When was the last time you felt really rested? And I don't just mean, I got enough sleep. I mean that deep kind of rest where you wake up and feel clear, energized, genuinely ready for whatever the day throws at you. If you're thinking, wow, I actually can't remember feeling like that for a while, then this deep dive is probably for you. We're kind of living in a world that just keeps pushing us. We can keep going, keep producing, even when we're basically running on fumes. And it's easy to mistake that really deep fatigue for just the new normal.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're looking into what we're calling the architecture of exhaustion. It's a psychology-backed look at things like emotional fatigue, burnout, and that feeling of sensory overload. Think of this as a gentle check-in, a chance to just pause, maybe reflect, and really notice what your mind and body might have been trying to tell you.
Right. And to make this really practical, we've pulled together 11 sort of core scenarios based on our research. As we go through them, just try scoring yourself internally on a scale of 1 to 5 for each one. 1 meaning it rarely happens, 5 meaning, yeah, that's me all the time. Your total score, somewhere between 11 and 55, will give you a pretty personal map of, well, where your energy tank actually is right now.
And honestly, just the act of showing up for this, thinking about these things, that already says a lot. It shows you're willing to check in with yourself. We're definitely not here to stick labels on anyone. It's more about gathering some insights, understanding the difference between just being tired and maybe tipping into functional overload.
Okay, let's get into the first category. We're calling it subtle leakage. These are those little daily things, the friction points that feel almost normal but actually signal something deeper might be going on. And we're starting right where the day often feels like it starts that moment the alarm goes off.
Mm-hmm. That first moment is surprisingly telling, isn't it? When that alarm rings, what's the first heaviest thought that comes to mind? Is it maybe that feeling that your motivation isn't really yours, that it's all external?
Exactly. Think about the difference between feeling pulled forward by something inside, goals, purpose, maybe even excitement, versus feeling like you have to physically force yourself out of bed, driven purely by responsibility or habit, or worse, just guilt. If it feels like that second one more often than not, the whole foundation of your day is already starting from a place of depletion.
And what's really fascinating, psychologically speaking, is that your ability to sort of flick that motivation switch yourself, that's one of the first things to get sluggish when you're drained. You kind of lose the executive function needed to connect with future rewards or goals, so you default to reactive mode. The system's low on fuel, right? So it runs on the easiest energy source available. Obligation. Just got to get through it.
And that lack of fuel, that drain, it immediately hits your ability to manage everything coming at you. Which brings us to the social tax. Think about your phone for a second. A simple text pops up, maybe from a friend, not urgent, just, hey, free to chat tonight. How do you react inside? That tells you a lot about your current bandwidth. Are you replying quickly, happy to connect? Or are you maybe staring at the message for like 10 minutes? Feeling completely overwhelmed by just the idea of a conversation. Perhaps you say yes, but you're secretly hoping they cancel. Or maybe you just leave it unread, pretend you never saw it. We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely. And why does a simple text suddenly feel like such a huge burden? It's that social tax. It's the cost of the emotional labor involved, processing someone else's stuff, managing politeness, active listening, all when your own reserves are low. You just don't have the bandwidth. That friction, it's a classic sign of functional strain. Your ability to process the world is just compromised.
Speaking of compromised processing, that leads right into environmental drain. How are you feeling lately in places that are crowded or noisy or just visually really busy?
Yeah, think about that. When your brain is rested, it's actually pretty good at filtering out background noise, irrelevant stuff. But when you're functionally drained, you lose that filter. The environment starts to feel, well, abrasive, almost physically uncomfortable.
Right, and that's why you see these responses like getting really quiet, mentally zoning out. It's a kind of self-protection. Or maybe you feel that immediate impulse to just bolt, like, get me out of here. In more severe cases, that depletion makes you actively avoid those places altogether because you know they just drain you way too fast.
Even trying to focus on one small thing, like one conversation in a noisy room, can feel like an impossible task, an uphill battle.
So that difficulty managing the outside world, the external input, that's kind of the first clear warning sign. But now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The internal stuff. That gap between how we act and how we actually feel deep down. This is what we're calling the quiet mask of functional exhaustion.
Right. And that mask, I mean, it often feels necessary, doesn't it? For getting through today, for work, for social stuff. But it definitely comes at a psychological cost. Think about when someone asks, just casually, hey, how have you been? What's your automatic reply? Is it a quick, genuine, great? Or is it more like that weary, oh, hang in there? Or maybe you just do that little quiet laugh and quickly change the subject.
Yeah, that deflection. We wear the mask to avoid feeling vulnerable, maybe, but the cost is feeling really isolated, which leads straight to this question of emotional aliveness. How often do you actually feel real joy or excitement or just a sense of richness, of fullness in your life?
And we're talking about the quality of that feeling. Does it happen often? Daily, maybe? Or are those moments feeling rare, distant? Or even, and this is the tough one, are you getting to that point where you think, honestly, I don't even remember what that richness feels like anymore? When the system is chronically overloaded, it starts shutting down things it sees as non-essential. And sadly, the capacity for those complex, positive emotions, that's often one of the first things to get muted.
And this brings us to something really critical from the research.
Yeah.
Chronic stress adaptation. This is that psychological state that often comes right before full-blown emotional burnout.
Exactly. If you've been, let's say, holding things together with metaphorical duct tape for months on end, your brain kind of adapts. It realizes sending constant, high-alert danger signals is inefficient. It takes too much energy. So it stops sending those really clear, piercing signals that say, I am not okay.
No.
That feeling of being constantly on the edge, where just one more tiny thing could make you snap, that becomes the new normal, the baseline, which is dangerous.
Wow. So you stop feeling the warnings, not because things are better, but because your body's just adapted to the constant stress.
Precisely. You've normalized the distress.
And that adapted state, that often dictates how we end up treating ourselves, doesn't it? When you inevitably can't keep up, because who could, under that much pressure? How do you respond internally? Like when you finally collapse on the couch at the end of the day, is your first instinct patience, care? Or do you immediately start beating yourself up, that guilt-tripping voice saying you should have done more?
And that's where a really dangerous feedback loop can start. That guilt leads to shutting down further, maybe emotionally punishing yourself, and then eventually just checking out, going numb. That numbness, that's often the final stage before you risk hitting learned helplessness. That point where you just stop trying to change things because the overwhelm feels permanent, insurmountable.
Like just dissociating with endless scrolling or staring at a wall in the dark.
Exactly. Those can be signs you're in that final stage of adaptation where the system is just trying to conserve any remaining energy by shutting down engagement.
Okay, so we've walked through those 11 scenarios. You've hopefully got a rough tally, a score in your head. Now let's look at what those scores might mean. And remember, these aren't labels, right? They're just awareness markers, pointers on a map showing us the road ahead for recovery.
Absolutely. So if your total score landed somewhere in Tier 1, which is 11 to 19 points, then honestly, that's great news. You're considered recharged, you're likely in a pretty solid place, you probably have some good routines, maybe strong support systems protecting you. The research on reducing emotional fatigue backs this up. Things like regular mindfulness, decent sleep habits, meaningful connections, they really work. You're doing something right.
Yeah, so the action step for Tier 1 is pretty straightforward. Keep doing what you're doing, honor your limits, protect those routines, and just keep checking in with yourself regularly. That's the gold standard preventative care.
Right. Now, moving into Tier 2, this is a score of 20 to 33 points. The description here is managing but drained. This is often the early phase of burnout, or what we call functional overload. You're probably functioning okay on the outside, people might not notice, but inside, it's taking a toll. The strain is wearing on you.
Okay, so if you're in Tier 2, the focus needs to shift immediately to preventative recovery, like right now. We strongly recommend a couple of key changes. First, start building in micro rest breaks. Seriously, for every, say, 90 minutes of focused work, take 10 minutes completely screen-free. Just breathe, stretch, look out the window, anything but a screen. Second, and this is huge, start practicing the art of saying no, gently but firmly. Maybe write down 3 small things, requests, favors, optional tasks that you can realistically decline this week to protect your energy.
That's such a crucial skill. We also really like the idea of creating a physical refuel box, not digital, like an actual box. Put things in it that genuinely soothe or ground you. Maybe a specific playlist ready to go, some printed affirmations that resonate, small objects you like the feel of. Something tangible you can grab when you feel that drain starting.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Tier 3. This is scoring 34 to 44 points. The label here is quietly exhausted. If this is you, you are likely doing way more than people realize, and honestly, the consequences are probably catching up fast. It's highly likely, if you scored here, that you're in that state of chronic stress adaptation we talked about earlier. Your brain might have stopped sending those clear, I'm not okay signals.
Yeah, and it's so important to hear this. This isn't a sign of weakness at all. It's your body waving a massive flag, even if it's doing it quietly now. The focus here has to be on establishing a daily reset plan, something consistent. We recommend trying the 5:55 morning routine. It's simple, 5 minutes of just free writing or journaling, whatever comes out, 5 minutes of focused, deep breathing, and 5 minutes of gentle movement, stretching, walking around, whatever feels good.
And the goal here really is about rebuilding a sense of agency, of control, when things feel out of control. So commit to one tiny, manageable, meaningful task each day.
Yeah.
Like really tiny, watering plant, tidying just one drawer, wiping down one counter. These small acts of completion can genuinely help rebuild your sense of self-control in the midst of chaos.
It's about those small wins. Okay, finally, we reached Tier 4. This is a score of 45 to 55 points. You are, quite simply, running on empty. This territory is emotional burnout. You might be feeling really detached, maybe disoriented, perhaps even experiencing deep hopelessness. This is often linked to that long-term overload and learned helplessness.
If you landed here, gentle support steps are absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Okay? The very first step is just getting the chaos out of your head. Do a brain dump. Grab paper, a notebook, whatever. Just write freely. No filter, no structure, no judging what comes out. Just empty the swirling thoughts onto the page.
That externalizing can be incredibly powerful. Second, you need to drastically limit the pressure you put on yourself, like dramatically. Try implementing a 1 task per day maximum and make that task incredibly simple, like brushing your teeth counts. Stepping outside for 30 seconds counts. Replying to one text message counts. The most vital thing to understand if you're in Tier 4 is this. You are not lazy. Please hear that. You are overwhelmed. You are depleted. That's a fundamentally different state, and it requires recovery and compassion, not more pressure or self-punishment. #outro.
So we've walked through the scores, the tiers, the potential actions. The real goal of this deep dive, as we said, wasn't about getting a label. It was about sparking some self-awareness, using these psychology-backed ideas as a mirror. Think about how it felt going through those 11 scenarios. Maybe parts of it felt really validating, like, yes, that's exactly how I feel. Or maybe it felt a little unsettling, perhaps, because of how accurate some of it seemed.
And if you felt lost during this, or just tired listening to it, or unsure about what to do next, that's okay. It just means you've likely been carrying a really heavy load for a long time. We connect all this back to the bigger picture. The absolute key insight, I think, is that recovery works best when it's preventative, not reactive. It's about making those small, consistent deposits into your energy bank before you hit zero or overdraft.
So, thinking about the week ahead, what does all this mean for you? If you suspect maybe your body has stopped sending those loud warning signals because you're caught in that chronic stress adaptation loop, what's one small, truly non-negotiable act of care you could implement, maybe even starting today, just to begin rebuilding that sense of agency and self-compassion? Remember, you are not broken. You are not lazy. You might just be profoundly drained, and you are absolutely still worthy of care, of rest, and of connection.